Hello, wonderful people. Shaun Tucker here, coach, trainer, and the man behind the mic in the brand new podcast, How Are You Really Mum? With the fresh male perspective, this is a place where we will unveil the layers and celebrate the woman behind motherhood. In How Are You Really Mum, we acknowledge the joys, the challenges, the growth, and the tears. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the How Are You Really Mum podcast with me, Shaun Tucker. Today I'm joined by an awesome lady named Henny McMahon, and she is a dear client of mine, but she's also a mum. She's a mother of two kids, and they've actually, one's 11, the other one's how old, Henny?
14.
14,
11.
so 14 and 11. And, Henny is actually still a young mum, I believe. She actually had her kids quite young, and I've got to know Henny over the last year and a half or so, and it's been a real pleasure just hearing about some of the stories that she shared, some of the things that she's had to let go of because she's actually not from Australia originally, and she migrated here. When did you migrate here, Henny?
Age of 23.
At the age of 23, so a number of years ago, and she had a really strong German accent as well, which I can't wait to sort of get into, some of her story of how she became a mum, and let's get straight into it. So Henny, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, and like I said, it's been a pleasure getting to know you since we met actually at a business networking meetup last year, wasn't it?
Yes. I saw you present one, and I didn't have a chance to call you because you were inundated with people. And then I met you at the Friday, the Must Be Friday event. I had a block here. And I went out to you, and we were chatting, and I said, what was the room up here? So I can't hear you. And you told me, just push your head and then we fix it up. And you're like, but I tried, and it did fix it. That's and I think that's how it started, that I started chatting, was through that. And I looked,
Yes, I remember it very clearly. Just so everyone gets an insight of that presentation that I initially did where I was inundated with people speaking to me. I flunked that presentation hard. I made a real mess out of it. And what was funny was it brought up a lot of socially anxious qualities that I used to have. And what was even more funny is the mayor, I think, was that was there where we were doing this event. Her sister happened to be the principal of the primary school that I went to.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely bizarre.
Oh, there you go. What a small.
So the world is very synchronous, and I do believe that we were supposed to meet, Henny, and you've been a great little, I guess, guinea pig in many ways.
I love it. I love being a guinea pig.
And when I say guinea pig, I mean, I do know what I'm doing, but at the same time, people need to learn to trust the process. And you were someone who was open and ready to receive something that maybe your logical mind couldn't quite understand. And that's what I really admired about your openness. It was really courageous.
Thank you. It was certainly a very interesting and intense journey. Especially in the early days, I'm very logic. Then if they don't understand the why, it makes no sense. Completely get so out of, I don't know. So I can't explain. I still can't explain. I call you my magician. When I talk about you, I'm very still a magician. Just how that shit's fine. I can't explain the process, but it's been a very interesting and intense journey. I've learned so much, trust and really trusting the process and embracing the journey, the ups and downs and all of that, which was definitely at times.
Yeah, and I guess that in a short little glimpse, right, on what you just said in working with me in the last year and a bit, probably if you connect that back to you coming to Australia, you migrated from Germany, you then went and had two beautiful young kids, a boy and a girl, right? So you've always had this probably curiosity on and openness, but how has your journey been of motherhood and like motherhood is such an intuitive journey, right? You have to
It
kind of listen to yourself and trust.
is.
Is it
It
something
was,
you struggled on?
I think to begin with, yes. When I first left say when I was 25, I've been in the country for a couple of years, but I was sick accent,
Mm-hmm.
which came with a number of significant challenges. I don't know if I told you, but when I found out I was pregnant, then on to say congratulations, you're pregnant. All right. I wasn't booked in with the hospital, and so I was about 6 months pregnant. So
Wow.
yes, which was, I didn't know where to go. I had the grandmother for, I couldn't get anywhere. Then it took my Australian husband, my ex-husband, to make those phone calls to get me into the care I needed to be in. So it started from the moment I was pregnant. That was really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I found it challenging anyways. And then because I was quite young, being put into mother's group, I was young for about 5 or 6 years. So no
Yeah.
one actually took me seriously. So I was in a country without my family. I had no family support. I had my now ex-husband was great, and it is still a fantastic father. I can't fault him at all. And
Mm.
his family, he was indeed very overbearing at the time. None of my family here, I didn't really have any close friends because that's always when you're an adult. When you know to make friends, it doesn't just happen like that.
Yeah,
Friendships don't just happen. They
not
don't.
like high school, right? Or primary
No,
school.
no, exactly. So he was quite a naive journey to begin with. The no one taking you seriously, trying to climb up plays in Australia. It was difficult. It was really difficult. And looking back at it, it was probably the biggest challenge of my life.
Yeah.
Is climbing my feet and really, finding out who am I. I mean, I was in my mid-20s. I had no idea. I didn't
Mm.
know. I just finished my fellowship, traveled the world, did what I did. Thank God all of a sudden I was there, came to a half a million human. And it's like, holy crap, right now, let's
How did
do
I
this.
get here?
That's it, the best thing I think. When he was about 4 months old, we went to Europe with him to see my family. So we actually traveled from Australia to Europe with 4 months old, went to Norway, and had all sorts of experiences around breastfeeding and babies and parenting and all of that. And that was the moment where I realized that I'm going to do what's right for me, because
Mm.
no matter what I do, I will be judged. And the way it got to that was breastfeeding, how it is still very traumatizing. And yes, when I was still in my 12 baby phase, I had my experience in Germany, sitting there in place, feeding my 4 months old baby.
Yeah.
Covered up so it wasn't, flop the boob back here, and here you are, well, had a look. It was very discreet. And I had an elderly lady sitting next to me. And she looked over, but when she realized what I was doing, she looked at me, rolled her eyes, and walked away. And I said, okay. And then on the 10th of that, normally we were on a bike cruise, and I needed to feed my baby, but there were so many tourists. There was an Asian tourist group,
Mm.
and they saw me looking for a spot to feed my baby. So they got up, they created a spot for me to sit, and then they formed a circle around me, and they were watching. They were enjoying that mum that child bond, and they did really, really uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie, I hate every second of that thing.
Yeah.
But that complete opposite experience, that was the moment when I realized, okay, it doesn't matter what I do, there's always going to be someone judging me, so I need to find what's right for me
Yeah.
and stick to my guns, just with the same I've done with moving to Australia. Many, many people didn't agree with that move. Many people were pushing against and I was saying, hey, don't do it, or you're going to fail. So that was sort of the moment when I realized, okay, no, I'm going to do what's right for me and for my me. And the
Yeah.
rest of the world can just go away and judge me all they like. It doesn't matter. It doesn't impact my life.
Well, they're not going to go away, are they?
Yeah,
Like the
exactly.
people judging, those eyes, the eyeballs on you, they're not going to go away.
Exactly. Exactly. And then when my daughter was born, again around the feeding thing, there was the next 6 days of judgments. So I had really severe mastitis, which meant at 4 weeks of age, oneself completely right up, and I simply didn't have enough milk to feed my child. So I mean,
Yeah.
she was 12 weeks old, and then I stopped breastfeeding because I never liked it. I was one of the first times I really did my blue on a little bit. It was I didn't like.
Mm.
And my sister-in-law, she handed down this the biggest bit of judgment I've ever experienced from a family. Well, not much, but that's not quite true. Well, it was a pretty big piece of judgment. But I think bigger
Yeah.
for her than as a family. But she said to me, "You can't stop breastfeeding. You must breastfeed your child. It's the best way for us that can hang on with it." Actually, research suggests that the first 12 weeks is important, and after that, it doesn't really matter that much.
Mm.
And if placing oneself forceful on me is not finding continuing, I'm not enjoying it. I'm only doing it for the child, and that pushback that was really, the next big moment of, blood, I don't care what society thinks of what I do. I've earned it my way. Been messed for life, been experiencing for the last 14 years now.
Yeah. And I think that speaks more than what you just said to everyone who's listening, to everyone who's watching, right? Is there's always going to be people watching. There's always going to be people judging you.
Yeah.
If someone you don't know is judging you, sometimes it's easy to let it go. When someone's closer to you, they might judge you, and you might feel really bad. You might feel really guilty. It could be negatively affecting you, your health, your physical, your whatever else is going on for you. But if you can't trust and just let it go and stick to your own guns, like you said, well, you're going to run yourself into a place of burnout. One, you're going to be absolutely miserable, and you simply cannot give from an empty cup, right?
Yeah.
So you can't actually be the best mum you can. You need to take care of yourself first, and that's the whole mission of this project. And this is the whole reason I want to help mums put mums first, is because they simply, and you're a prime example, right? I mean, you had to learn to put yourself at least a little bit first.
Yes.
Because if you can't take care of yourself and your mental health is suffering, right?
Yeah.
And I love that in Australia they have, if there are mums with young ones who are really struggling with, postnatal depression or whatever it is, they can go and check themselves in to a mum and bub sort of ward and get the support that they need.
That's wonderful. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's actually more common than you realize. And these are some of the stats that I heard, right? So for postnatal depression for women, 1 in 5 mums are affected.
Yeah, right.
But on the contrary, dads, guess what? 1 in 10 dads are also affected by postnatal depression.
Interesting. I didn't even know it was a thing for men.
Right? And that's the whole idea, is there's so much stigma around this because there's just such a lack of awareness, or perhaps ignorance.
Yeah.
And ignorance in a negative way, because ignorance can be a great tool to access something that you don't know. When you realize how much you don't know, you actually tap into the possibility of knowing more.
Yes.
But yeah, those statistics are really wild. And I mean, when you came here and when you had your first kid and your second, like, the support networks that you have around you are so, so important. And if you don't have them, you have to really learn to trust your gut, trust your heart, and trust your gut.
Absolutely. And I think that's really key is you need to have the support networks. You still need to trust your gut, and you still need to be in the driver's seat. You, as the mum or as the dad, you need to make the decisions and not let the support network make them for you.
Yeah.
And I know, well, sure, it can be quite difficult for families now who know that through friendship groups, where the parents or the parents who are really heavily involved, and they then decide that they can make decisions on how to parent and how to look after the child. Again, I will say, given I'm quite fortunate, I didn't know that because my family is over in Germany. None of them came out with me. And my ex-husband's family, they never lived close by, which was a good thing. So they always lived a 3-hour drive away, which meant that there was no one close by who could interfere on one side, but on the fifth, it also meant we didn't have family support network, period. My parents-in-law, they used to come here and find out actually meant to lack samples of existing results. I went back to full homeless. They look at me every Friday. And speak Fridays with Sam, so that's how you have to go to bed 4 days a week, not 5.
Mhm.
And then my son-in-law, she had breast cancer, which was very unfortunate. But grandpa kept coming. So Sam and grandpa had this absolutely amazing bond because they spent every Friday together. It was really, really special. But yes, so it was family. It was good that we didn't have that closest because we didn't have anyone harm to interfere with our decisions as parents. But you know, we didn't have that daily support that other people have. And all the depression stuff, I was very fortunate and very lucky that neither myself or my ex-husband were affected by any of that.
Mhm.
We're very happy for
Yeah. Yeah, and it like your environment is so important because it's not just the people that it's around you, right? And
Mm,
this is the, I think, biggest challenge that probably new parents face is when you've got a new life that's just brought into the world, like that life is 100% in your hands. Well, forget about you for a second. You got this life that's 100% dependent on you. Their
yeah,
survival is dependent on you. So you
yeah,
really got to put that in the foremost front of your mind that when you wake up, yes, sometimes it takes a little while for everything to kick in and be like, oh, that's right, I've got this little kid. If you don't wake up from the crying, of course.
I was just going to say, we have philanthropy just claiming with a new book. We can't do it over Atlas race.
Well, no, you're right. And like it kicks you right up into gear, like straight away. And it puts you in these states of perhaps, high stress because
Yeah,
that's what survival does. Like that kid at a really deep energetic level as well is dependent on you.
yeah,
So you're going to feel because it is part of you, even being the dad, being the mum more so, but it's still part of you. That life is still a part of you, even though they might be 60 or 80 years old. You might be
yeah,
100, right? That child was still part of you and
yeah,
still is at some level. So when
absolutely.
when when there's some sort of upset or when there's like a physiological danger response or survival response, it is felt either in
Yeah,
the emotions or physically sometimes. Like these things actually do matter. And if we're not taking care of the environment, what I mean by that is where we are, right?
mm,
How we are looking after ourselves in terms of our environment, not just keeping it clean, not just keeping it hygienic, right? Because there's the argument of maybe we've gone too hygienic. Like we just kill everything, right? Kill all of the bacteria, even though we're made up of trillions of
yeah.
bacteria. It becomes a fine balance. And I think
Eating.
from what I hear in working with you, but also in what you've shared today, you've had to learn to navigate the balance of trusting yourself and trusting what others are sort of giving you in terms of information.
Yeah, definitely. And absolutely. It's a learning journey that doesn't end. We talked about falling pregnant, having babies, babies being young, and even now. Um,
Mm.
my son's obviously 14, so I had opportunity. This is a whole new bloody world for me. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, literally overnight, my darling daughter had some hormonal changes happening at
Mhm.
one point because it is only 11, but
Ah.
realistically, now I've got two hormonal bunches of human at home to deal with
Mm.
because that's a completely new challenge, which means the environment has changed with that too.
Yeah.
Um, and what comes into it in my situation is we are a split family, so the dad and I separated 6 years ago. And whatever specifically split, so we do co-parent and it works. We are amicable and we make all the decisions about the children together and all of that. But it means I can only control 50% of the environment of my children. The other 50, I have absolutely no say over. I have no influence at all over what
Mm.
happens at Black's house. I don't get a say, period. And but that adds another challenge to that whole environment balancing act. And also as a mum, learning that letting go and actually letting go of my instincts and reminding myself that that actually gets an equal say in my children's lives. It's
Yeah.
not that I believe this right. When there is him, he makes the decisions, and I have a big drag say. But then that's a challenge that's I've been working on for, as I say, about 6 years now.
Yeah.
Learning that, and now that we are moving into that puberty stage, it, and she's being more independent. They've always been very, very independent, but even more so now. They don't allow me to control as much. So now I've got to not just try and balance their environment and my environment, but then trying to influence as much as I can what's best for them and trying to guide them, especially my daughter. She's very much, she's usually an miniature version of me in her behavior. So I
Yeah.
think that absolutely drives me mad, and I'm really sorry for that done to this. But it will come back to me. Yeah. But like, it's really, I find it really challenging to balance all of that and try to be supportive and guiding them and, being their friend, but also being their mum, yeah, but only part-time.
Yeah.
And then I know that my ex and we have very different styles of parenting. Definitely, yes, we're similar, we're in the same direction, but I've been a lot more strict than he is. Always have. I've always been growing my captain on, and Shaun, you would understand why I am. Like, as a dissociative, I make rules, I break the rules, but they don't get to it. But realistically, he parents very different to me. Very, very different. As an example, in my house, the room is in addition to the room before you go to their house. I won't have a music review, even though the door starts at this alone. And if that's us, they don't need to. So, for kids, it's equally difficult to balance two different households, two different family dynamics, two different sets of expectations.
Yeah.
So that's my current parenting challenge, I think, is to me find all of that.
Well, it is a real dilemma, isn't it? Because, I mean, too often we hear people say things and then do the opposite.
Yeah.
Right. But what you're saying here is it's two different people involved. There's two different rules, two different morals, two different sets of standards. Right. So when they go to your ex-husband's, their dad's home, it's like, well, there's different rules, there's different expectations here. So we just follow that. But then when we go to mum's, it's a totally different set of rules and expectations.
Yeah.
That can be very conflicting in someone's mind, right?
Absolutely. And look, traditional servants, they are doing incredibly well. I'm very lucky to have my two kids. They are, they're not angels, but they're certainly, I'm glad to have them. They're fantastic. And they handle all of this really, really well. Always have, they're very nice about it all. Very, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that they have really great parents to thank for that, right? Yeah. But you also said something really interesting, like the influence that we have as parents on our kids. When they're very young, obviously we do have a lot of influence on them, but when they start entering the social structures more so, it becomes lesser and lesser and lesser that every year they get older, right? And something like, I don't know the exact number or the percentage, but it's something less than 30% or less than 25% of influence that we have as a parent on our child, right? That's not a very significant amount of influence.
But I think with that, we've just got to find a way to meet our children on their level. Don't expect them to come to our level, but meet them at theirs. So Shaun, I've had, my son was very distant from me for a while last year. And, we worked on that. And, we are super close again, like we used to be when he was little. He really, really enjoys spending time together. And I think part of it was liking this thing anyways insights. But the other part was, so both my children and we all into soccer. Both kids play, act that stuff. But I used to coach, heavily involved, all my life, all of that kind of thing. So my son swapped teams just into the season, and I needed an assistant coach. Was sitting payments. How do you feel if I come and coach? He's like, when you're hired a kid, you can come. Well, I have no risk. I come along, but you tell me if it's annoying me to have mum, coaching you. And very quickly he said to me, sorry about one training month, because I don't have that, so I didn't, I had my own thing going on. My mum, you guys. And then he turned around and said, Mum, here comes their sense as well. What's the thing?
Wow.
Sure. And he's like, yeah, I actually really liked it in but Mum, it's really good fun, I get to hang out with you and we do something together. That really, that coaching my son with this addition of with these, ingredients to it, has brought us so much closer because, we do something together that she loves doing. It's this pattern we're following. And, he wanted to be a referee instead of my daughter. So I said, don't race, we'll do the referee course. I'll do it with you, not because I want to be a referee. Of course, I don't want to. But I'll do it to support you so that you don't have to do it on your own.
Yeah.
So we did. And that just brought us closer. We now have this thing in common that really dominates our world, and it is a platform for us to be together and has that quality time. And that's also where I can then use my influence as a mom, as a coach on their level to bring that out into their broader life. So I think for us parents, we need to remember we've got to find a way to communicate with kids on their level, not our level.
It's not a dictatorship, right? Because at the beginning, of course, the child is 100% dependent on you as a life for them to continue to survive and live. Right?
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a dictatorship in that regard. Like they're dependent on you.
There's some moments where he's a dictatorship where mum goes to, and that absolutely there is no democracy at certain points. But yes, there's certainly more democratic aspects to it as they get older. But the dictator mum is still there at last.
No, I love it, and it's really the way that I see it is you've evolved that relationship with your child, right? You've asked permission. Can we do this together? Can we experience this? And perhaps I can be your coach for this period. So you've learned to guide them. You've taken that next step of like them. You're holding them in your arms, basically, the way that I see it. You're holding them in your arms and literally attached to you, to where they become a little bit more independent. And then they leave, and then they come back. And you said, well, or maybe they didn't come back, but you said, hey, look, why don't we do this? Yeah. And then that also sparks that little bit of like, not attachment, but that connection, that really deep, profound connection between mother and son, or mother and daughter, or dad and daughter, dad and son, which then, if you don't learn to evolve yourself and work on yourself, you'll just continue on that pathway of like telling, but you ask for permission. Like that's a huge thing. You met them where he was at, and you allowed him to experience that. And then he was the one to then, you kept the ball in his court the whole time. It's basically what I'm saying. Yeah. And I think that's huge.
It was his choice, not mine. It wasn't when I said, no, I'm coming. They cannot enjoy it. He had from down in him and say, I was after. I call it all.
Yeah.
In a way, in this particular instance, it's also really about that father body and watching you there. Because it's not just skin, it's humanist maths. So he's inviting me into this friendship group to buy his friends as well as him. Which is showing it's like, okay, so A, you are hanging out with me, B, you're not under embarrassed by me, which is really good. But let's be honest, that's like, wow. So that's really good. And I do check in with him and say, hey, are you okay with me still doing it? And have your friends, start picking on you, anticipating it. He's like, no, Mum, they are okay with it.
Yeah, your child, I mean, your boy is clearly quite wise and pretty, I don't even know what word to use, but he seems like the kind of kid who's destined for great things because, he understands somehow that the mother role, you've learned to evolve that role. And that he still sees you as an important role model or a figure in your life a figure in his life that he wants to. You're clearly leading by example.
Yeah. I'm very, very proud of my little man, that's for sure. And he's
Yeah.
very fascinating, always fascinating. He's always tuned into things also, and you should probably all know would want him to.
Yeah. I mean, sounds like a really noble kid, I would say.
Yes, challenging, but no. People politically no love. But they can do this coaching case. Obviously, I can't coach case, but with my daughter, my ex-husband's actually coaching her. So we just, going back to that involvement.
Yeah.
He's doing the same thing with her. So
And it comes back to willingness, doesn't it, really? Because
absolutely.
if you're not willing to be part of your child's life when they're also growing, maybe they become a bit more tormenting towards you, because once they start hitting puberty and things like that, they're sitting in the back seat of their own body too, right? They're not in the driver's seat often. They're controlled by external forces that are just literally taking over their body.
Yeah, exactly. And so can I just take this back for a moment? Speaking of the listeners, I believe easy to dive into protein soccer because I've been involved in sport all my life.
Yeah.
Like, so this is so given my head that has the same passions as other children, but that I follow up with it. And before the soccer thing now, my son decided to be a sketch. And one of the scouts about 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And through that, I actually joined him in that as well and became a scout leader. And that's not, pushing out of my comfort zone to meet my child, like you said, and my daughter joined scouts as well. So this is more, it doesn't necessarily need to be something that we're passionate about. And, scouting is fantastic, but it's not something that I've done as a child or ever had an interest in. I loved it. I like camping, and that sort of stuff. But to me, my children, when they were that, they did grow enjoying the scouts as a leader. So just to turn to listeners, doesn't need to do something that you're already comfortable with. It's
Becoming involved in their life
learning something new.
In a passive way, though, right? Because it's not like you were intentionally seeking these things that we must do together. You found some form of common ground, some form of like common interest. Maybe it was just being open to learning, right?
Yeah.
And you use that as a platform.
That's it. And it doesn't need to be the direct leader. What is that? A scout leader. I never actually was a leader of youth. So I was involved in that program. I was behind the scene. I was leading up that also. I was supporting those who were directly involved with my children. What I gave was again that thing in common where we could speak about the same thing, all actually understand what there was that and vice versa. So it is a really good opportunity for us as parents to follow what children into their passion, to broaden our horizon and learn something new. And again, join them on their level to support those relationships and, the loss of influence. And I'm sure.
From what I hear you saying, and if I understand it clearly, it was more to support them on their journey, right? It wasn't to protect them on their journey. And I think that's a stark difference, right? Because often my wife comes from an Asian, like a Singaporean Chinese background, and she often talks about these helicopter parents, right? So helicopter parents basically just swoop in and protect their child from whatever dangers that exist. But how much does that actually preserve their life or like stop them from experiencing their life? And I think what you just said there is it's learning to support and finding ways you can support them without necessarily having to protect them. Correct. And that's the evolution of the relationship between mum and bub, I would say, so that you can go to that next level.
That's exactly right. And going back to the Scouts principle here, which is telling you there's all of that, it's use let and unsupported. It. And I think that's a statement we should really take in child parenting, not when they are little, but, when we're talking about that little bit older age, the 13, early teenagers, they really need to lead in ways adults just need to guide and support. Like a coach from the sideline, you're not actively involved on the pitch with them. We're standing on the sideline and we might, the direction here or there. Yeah. Or if something does go wrong, we're there to support them through that. It's really about following our children and taking them seriously to show them, hey, it's okay to make decisions. And it's okay to go wrong sometimes and make mistakes. We go through it together so
Yeah.
that they can learn from it in life.
And that
that's
is
very
nurturing at
much
its finest, right?
that's the ideal scenario. It doesn't always work that way. But, you know, if we strive for that kind of level of nurturing parenting, I think that's when we have the best chance of actually achieving that and not helicoptering our children, but really being there for them, you know, and supporting them. You know, when that is doing a referee's course with them, or telling him to open up and said to me, last month a professional was our support, and said, okay, right, so let's do some research. How do we get into that? What is involved? And it's a conversation where I say, look, you guys need to take the lead in this. I'm not going to do the research for you. You
Yeah.
guys have the process. Do you go find it out? You're old enough. I'll help you, but you need the process. And I think if we all do that a bit more and get a bit more understanding to each other's parents as well,
Yeah.
we will raise a really amazing, you know, black people.
Generation, right? The next generation.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's a huge responsibility that people take on as parents, right?
yeah.
You're literally taking on the responsibility of raising the next generation of children, the
It
next
is.
generation of leaders in this world.
Absolutely. And it's not something that you can argue. You can go around and do something else like a career
You can't
change.
just stop it. No.
As you said earlier, it's that when we die. We're parents until the moment we die.
Yeah.
In my room, I keep telling them, you know, they will be my babies forever.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah. And there was something I guess the underlying theme that I kind of am picking up through this conversation is that there's a lot of trust. There's a lot of faith involved. And what I mean by that is letting the kids experience and explore life within the bounds of feeling safe, ultimately. You know, you're trusting them that they'll go ahead and experience without, you know, needing to have to protect them all the time, right? Of course, there's going to be moments where you need to step in and save them or help them in that regard. Even the relationship between you and your ex-husband, you know, there's still a lot of faith and trust that your babies are the most important thing. And when you understand what your priorities are, everything else can be surrendered, right? It's going to be okay because this is the most important thing in my life. Like the safety and the protection and the nurturing of this child is the most important thing in my life.
Yes, absolutely. And just one comment for on that trust piece. Yes, I do trust my children. However, I had to earn the trust. It's not that I wake up and say, yeah, off you go, have fun. It is literally from when they're little, they have to earn the trust. And they know they can use step up for making stupid choices, you know, and there are consequences. I've got to be really clear. The trust doesn't just happen, it's earned. It's an earned trust my children have. And is that like a lot of freedom, but I can also take that away from them. And they are very aware of that, which is also for making, you know, very stupid choices, which is good. I guess you're right, it does take a lot of trust and a lot of overcoming my own worries and fears and not projecting them onto my children. My son, again, just being a little bit older than my daughter, we were walking the other day somewhere. I was showing him my who's public transport because he said, I want to catch the train and go to farm day tomorrow. Like, radio, Mum is letting bullets and panicky and bang and had that suit together a couple of times. And we were walking and he said, do you know what, I'm old enough. I've let go of you. Now you need to let go of me. But if you need to turn a breath, so I started crying when he said that to me, you know, as we were walking into the shopping center. And I said to him, thank you for pointing that out. I believe you appreciate it and I try. But you need to understand, I'm straight. For me, you will always be my baby. And I try. For the stuff I should have done. And he's helping me with that, you know. But they're the moments of truth where you go like, how to learn this? Time to learn this.
Well, they're keen observers. They're learning from the best, right? They're learning from you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Except that they've got not all of what you've given them, but they've been able to take that on and then open themselves up and learn a little bit more and probably observe maybe what you can't see. And that's really the beauty of the next generation.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, yeah, it's quite interesting that you say that, because we're always trying to protect our kids in some way, shape, or form. And that might be at an emotional level, like it might be all the stuff that happened when we were kids or when our parents were kids. And, that we don't want that to be projected and for them to deal with what we have dealt with in our life, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, exactly. Exactly. It's an amazing journey, this parenthood, this motherhood, but it is challenging and wonderful and scary and beautiful. All of that combined,
I agree. Actually,
Yes.
something that I wanted to mention with the trust before, I think you're absolutely right. It's an earned thing, but I also think it's a given thing, because if you don't start with a place of trust, right, you're never going to earn it, because it's never ever given, right? But I think what happens after, like, I'm someone who believes that giving trust is the first thing that happens, but then it becomes a test of trust. So really you're giving them, maybe it's unconscious too, right?
Yeah.
But you're giving them little tests to see if you can trust them again and trust them again and keep that level of.
And it is a builds, doesn't it? You don't
Does.
just trust them with, I don't know, catching a train on their own. You go with small pieces and you start so that it's not, it builds over time. And yes, it's hustle starts with giving the trust. So we're going to
Building
start
confidence.
That's it. And you practice it over time until you have that, bigger piece of trust. Well, that bigger piece has to be earned tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And Henny, I mean, if it's okay to ask you a question, this is a question I normally ask my guests, and that is, knowing what you know now, going back to when you first started, I guess, with your baby boy all those years ago, like what are the things, or what's just one thing you would tell yourself? I mean, you've gone through a lot to get where you are right now, and those first initial few years of bringing a child into the world and migrating to Australia are certainly challenging. So what would you say to yourself reflecting back what you know now?
I think what I would actually say is enjoy the journey. Enjoy the good, enjoy the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, all of it. Because it's all part of it. Without the lows, you can't have highs, and vice versa. Enjoy it. Let's take the end.
Yeah, I love that. And I absolutely agree. If you can learn to be enjoying the process, the good, the bad, the ugly, the in between, well, life is actually a great process. It's a real ride, right?
Yeah.
Because to enjoy the roller coaster, if you only enjoy one part, you're probably going to be miserable. Don't just let it all build up to one moment.
Yeah.
Be joyful and choose to be joyful in those processes when you're even not feeling that well, right? If it goes around or it goes down on that roller coaster ride, maybe you feel a little bit sick, but can I at least smile in that process? Because that smile, you can't frown whilst you're smiling. I've tried. It doesn't work.
That's very true. That's very true. And I think when you enjoy the journey, you're more joyful. Overall.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Henny, it's been an absolute great pleasure to have you on today's show. Is there anything you want to leave for our viewers, as well as how they can connect with you as well? Because you do run a business as well. I didn't mention that in this episode, but it's certainly something you do. And yeah, I love what you do. But is there any way that is best way to connect with you for our listeners and for our viewers?
Absolutely. The easiest way is definitely via LinkedIn. I'm going with non-active, but have been for quite a while, and I am on LinkedIn daily. So that is the easiest way to connect with me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure that I put your LinkedIn profile in the show notes, and everybody go and connect with Henny.
Thank you so much for taking the show. It's been an absolute pleasure having a chat with you.
Thank you so much, Henny. It's been a great pleasure. And thank you all for listening and tuning in once again to the How Are You Really Mum podcast. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. Bye for now.